research is very, very important because if we are to design policies that really meet the needs and aspirations of the people, we need to do research.
We do research that is going to help somebody in another country, in another continent. How are we dealing with the challenges of economically empowering women in Kenya? How can that support somebody else in another region, in another continent? So we also think about research as service to the global community.
How do you do research? One, you have to review a number of researches in that particular area, and then you see where the gaps are, and then when you get the gaps, you must consult the government agency to see if that is provided for in their plans for that year or in the subsequent coming years.
Data informs everything, so it's really important for us, particularly in this sector where we are trying to advance women or to help women participate more in the labor force market, to have some sort of evidence that we can use to build policy and upon which policy can be based as well.
Decision makers need data, politicians need data so that they can be able to push for the change in the society. So there's need for data-driven decision making.
The policy makers, who are usually government agencies, have positive thinking to developing society, but at times they don't have bankable information.
Research helps to bring knowledge and evidence into conversations. And this is particularly important because decision makers, policy makers want evidence.
Research is designed to really build a body of knowledge that can inform other people.
That we need to have convergences between policy development and research.
At National Treasury and Planning, we deal with the data, we deal with the numbers. But how can we use numbers in such a way that we don't use them to bamboozle people?
And in research, that's the essence. In fact, it's one of the hallmarks of research, simplicity. Being simple without being simplistic, because there's a difference when you are simplistic and when you are simple. That the message that you have, that you've got, needs to be communicated to someone so that they can consume it and understand it in the correct way.
We're talking about data that goes to policymakers, which they do understand, which they work with, and they're actually pushing it on their desks and saying, translate the information that is coming from the evidence-based research which GROW is undertaking, which is based on the realities in the communities. Can this be translated into actionable policy?
What is important is the three persons to work in sync: the researcher, the policymaker, and then the community.
It makes sense. It makes economic sense. It makes social change sense. And a researcher and a policymaker need to talk to each other.
So we are trying not to work in silos: government, policymakers, researchers, stakeholders. We have the private sector, who are so important. These are the guys who are going to employ the young people. So we sort of involve everyone, have an inception workshop and push out our idea and get those who are interested to join us. And then if we notice that someone we need on the team is not there, we look for them and tell them, hey, we have these things. Maybe it will be interesting, maybe not, but we need you. Yeah, so we start bottom up, really, yeah.
The research is supposed to inform government on which policy to bring about.
We should be able to have indicators to measure how much the policy that we're influencing is actually resulting into action and has transformed women and girls' lives.
One of the things that I celebrate is the connection between planning processes and the transformative leadership that you need in order to implement plans, so that we don't become eternal tools of planning, which plans never come to fruition because there are no processes and pathways put in place towards the accomplishment of those plans.
For us, we think it's really, really important work to be able to engage policymakers in improving some of the conditions that are within their power to help these young women. And I think that IDRC, and particularly through this Grow East Africa program, even through the other projects within the cohort, are doing some really important work by providing the platform for us to look a bit more deeper into some of these issues within our society and to be able to bring forth some solutions that we hopefully can see being taken up by government and other stakeholders in the future.
So starting point, talk to the policymakers. Let them drive the agenda for the research so that it's meaningful for them.
And that this dialogue needs to be cascaded, both upwards and also downwards. Upwards from national to regional to continental and global platforms, and downwards to subunits, subnational units, all the way to the household level, so that the discussions are helping us to ensure that the interventions we come up with are effective in helping us to move in the direction that we want to move.